Is there something to that? The fact that all Republicans, senators, take the heat because they failed in the majority to do what they said they would do to Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Charlie, what do you think?
You know, it's funny. I hear that there's going to be protests these next couple of days, and I had to wonder, quite honestly, wait, is it going to be protests from the left or protests from the right? I mean, I'm so disappointed in this Congress, to be perfectly honest with you. And how many hundreds of millions of dollars did these GOP senators raise on the backs of the promise of repealing Obamacare? And half of me wonders that they actually never thought that the Republicans would win the White House the last couple weeks before the election. So they just said, yeah, we're going to repeal Obamacare. Let's raise as much money as we can. And we're going to just keep on doing these ceremonious show votes because it's actually never going to matter. And look, now the people are getting really angry. You have people on the left that are obviously protesting it, but rightfully the base, of which I'm a member of, we're really upset because we put these senators in place to get rid of this disastrous health care law, and quite honestly, Americans are suffering under it, and I find no excuse why senators from states like West Virginia, Maine, and Alaska can't come to terms with a skinny repeal. It's more than disappointing.
And Arizona. Did John McCain's vote surprise you? Because he did campaign on an uphill battle for re-election. Remember, just getting the nomination was a fight. And, you know, he ultimately won that by 15 points. But normally he had been winning by 30 or 40 points. And he had made it clear in a lot of his advertising that he would be the lead admiral on repealing this thing and getting it done. So here there was the opportunity a lot of conservatives said he had, and he didn't do it. What do you make of that?
Very disappointing, and of course we wish him a speedy recovery, and you know you just feel terrible for him and his family. But look, here's an opportunity for him to do what he said he was going to do, and the constituents of Arizona, they put him first in the primary position because he had to fend off a primary from the base, and then he had to go into the general, and he stayed consistent with the message that I'm going to repeal Obamacare, we're going to repeal Obamacare, this is a mess. And then I heard his speech the other day, which had some good elements that I agreed with, but quite honestly, he went out there and he said, you know, we have to really be careful not to want to repeal this whole law. That's different type of speech than what you said on the campaign trail. And this is a problem that is emblematic of not just health care, but we're going to see this in taxes too, by the way. This is going to come up in the fall where they say one thing to the people and they do a totally different thing in Washington, D.C. And where that rubber actually hits the road there, you know, I wouldn't want to be Mitch McConnell right now because, you know, to his credit, he's actually trying to get the votes to do what they said they were going to do.
So you think that it's doubtful they can even get their act together on the tax cut thing? I've already seen that telegraphed by a number of representatives and senators on the right who have very, very different ideas as to how far these tax cuts go, if they're all tax cuts, for example. Some are open to this Steve Bannon idea of raising taxes on the richest Americans. So there's already signs that these guys are not in sync.
That's right. And look, there's another interesting component to this. I don't think the Senate has any urgency to repeal Obamacare because they sort of actually exempted themselves from it during the original passage. They get their own congressional health benefits. And so they live under different laws than the American people. And as you know, Neil, you've talked about this a lot of times. The founders put in place a clause that lawmakers should never be allowed to exempt themselves from the very laws that they pass upon the people. And this goes for tax reform, too. I mean, if the senators actually have to raise their own taxes, they're going to be like, wait a second, I don't know about this. And that's kind of the Steve Bannon idea. It's the carried interest tax, which a lot of these senators and Congress people have, as you know, 401ks, and you know, they put their money in stock portfolios that are kind of these blind trusts, and they're like, wait a second, I'm going to have to pay tax on this. So look, the biggest problem is Congress is living a different life in a different world, and sometimes I think a different universe than the American people, and they seem immune from repercussions because they say something different than they actually do in Washington, D.C.
Well, it is remarkable, the turn of events just in the last 12 hours or so. Charlie, thank you very, very much.